Okay, greetings everyone, and welcome to the presentation that will preview Chapter 4 of Opening Skinner's Box in the Unlikely Event of a Water Landing. Before we go any further, I just want you to think about the title of the chapter. When do you hear those words, right? When do you hear in the unlikely event of a water landing? And if you've been on an airplane, probably not recently, but if you've been on one, then you know that the stewardess often will say those words while they're giving that safety presentation before the flight takes off. And I want you to think about how those words apply to the chapter, because they may seem to be a little random. We'll talk about that certainly at some point in class, but be thinking about that. So this video previews Chapter 4 of Opening Skinner's Box. Okay, so some topics in Chapter 4. So remember, it's always important to have background knowledge. This is part of your previewing step of reading. If you page through the book, you should see that all of the words on these different purple boxes come from or topics that are in the chapter. So what's your background knowledge on September 11th, 2001? What's your background knowledge on anthrax in the U.S. mail right after 9/11? What is your background knowledge on a man named John Darley, or Bib Latane, or Kitty Genovese, Winston Moseley, the bystander effect, diffusion of responsibility, social cueing, pluralistic ignorance, or Arthur Beeman? So, do you know anything about any of that? And so remember, make a list, write down what you know, and then spend a few minutes Googling and taking notes on the ones you know nothing about. If you don't have background knowledge on something, remember how hard it is to read and understand well what you're reading, right? And so it's important to gather background knowledge. So spend some time, pause the presentation here, or listen to the whole thing and then go through the steps, up to you. But Google each one of these things and just jot down some notes. You know, you're spending about 5 minutes per topic. Okay, so here is an old video from Brain Games. It's on helping behavior. It's short. I'm going to play it through this PowerPoint.
Your brain is constantly making calls about what's right and what's wrong. And though you may not think twice about these everyday moral decisions, the calculations behind them can be pretty complicated, as you're about to see in this next experiment. Imagine you're walking through the park one afternoon. When you see someone fall down, would you lend a hand? We've enlisted the help of an actress and set up a hidden camera experiment to see what strangers will do in this exact scenario. How do you think people will react once our actress hits the pavement?
I think she may have hurt herself.
That didn't take long. Within seconds, a crowd quickly gathers around, ready and willing to help. We run the experiment over and over, and every time, people responded to help her up in less than 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
It seems people will lend a helping hand to someone lying on the ground. It makes you feel good about humanity, right? But is there anything we can do to make passersby turn a blind eye to the same person? What happens when we change nothing but the way our actress looks? Would you help someone up who looks so down and out? How will people react now? How long will it take for someone to help? Seconds have gone by, and no one has come close to helping. They just keep walking. More than a minute has passed, and no one has helped. She's been on the ground for 15 minutes. Before you judge any of these people too harshly, ask yourself, what would you do in this situation? It seems people's brains are having a hard time seeing this woman in need. It's as if she were invisible, even to this couple, sitting just 10 feet away. Why did so many people stop to help this woman, but not this one? Why does our actress's appearance make such a huge difference?
Empathy is an important motivational state for determining whether or not you will help someone in need.
But what triggers our sense of empathy for others? Psychologists have long noted that we automatically categorize other people as members of our in-group or out-group. Humans evolved in groups where our individual survival depended on the survival of others. So it makes evolutionary sense to help people in our own groups.
Okay, so I want you to spend a minute and think about how that connects to what you've researched so far and what previewing you've done on the chapter. Okay, so you should be at this point ready to read, so open to chapter 4 in the unlikely event of a water landing. It's about Darlie and Lataine's training, she says, training manual, and it's a 5-stage approach. So you'll notice that the chapter's broken up into those stages, and they'll come into play at the end of the chapter too. Enjoy the chapter. I think after you've done your research and you've watched the video, you're probably pretty ready to see what it's all about. Okay, when you're done reading, complete your QQMS. This should feel pretty comfortable by now. And then, when you're done, at the end, please include a short reflection that answers the following questions. How did your research aid your reading of the chapter? Be specific. What are you learning about the importance of background knowledge? How did the video help set up the chapter? And what did you learn about people from reading the chapter? So, short reflection. I would say you can take the questions one at a time. You probably will have about a page by the time you're done. Then, here's what's due for chapter 4. Your research notes that you took before you read, your QQMS, and your reflection. When you're done with all of those things, upload them to the assignment folder and you are done with chapter 4.